and welcome back to my channel, Rihanna Runs a Marathon. I thought in today's video it would be a good idea to go through a few little stretches that I like to do kind of after an activity. So as you might notice, I'm not exactly in running kit right now. I'm in cycling kit. Mainly that's because, if I'm honest, I don't really do these much after running. I just find that I just want food after I run. But when I cycle, because you're more able to take on fuel as you cycle, I really benefit from stretching after cycling. Obviously these are just stretches that you can do after any kind of activity, and it will definitely help your muscles kind of regain their length, and that's really what you want to do for stretching, because as you use them they kind of contract a little bit and you want to stretch them back out, and that will help your flexibility in the long run. So we're in my living room, so let's get started. So one of the first things that I like to do when I kind of do some stretching is just to do some nice hip openers. So you just want to take your leg up and around, and that will really kind of work the socket joint that's in there. Obviously, if you're not that great at balancing, do hold on to a wall and just do a few of these on each leg. Remember, each leg, just to make sure you've opened those hips up and they are a little bit warm. And it's likely that after running, they probably won't want to go to the side. That's okay, just ease it as far as you can go. When I do it, I can feel my hip go click, 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 the whole way around to the back, which isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it means that I definitely should be doing these kind of things. Here I'm going to just do a few little touches of the floor. So I've taken my feet out a little bit, and that just makes it a little bit easier to touch the floor. Just want to stretch downwards, and this should really get your hamstrings right down at the back, and you'll feel them. And obviously if you're more flexible, you can bring those feet together and bring them down. But again, it's likely that if you've done some running, it'll be a little bit difficult to get your hands all the way down. And also, just being here is fine as well. As long as you can feel that stretch down the backs of your legs, you're working well. So if you're here, what I would kind of recommend is just grabbing your hands together, and it just makes a little bit more of a weight to help your spine relax at the top. And of course, if you're all the way down, you can try and get your whole hands on the floor. Just try and keep those knees straight. And then when you come up, you can bend them a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's hamstrings stretched out a little bit, that's hips warmed up a little bit. So we're gonna do a little bit of side stretching, which isn't completely necessary, but it will help with your shoulders. And when you're running or on the bike, you tense those shoulders quite a lot. So I'm just gonna step my feet apart so I've got a wide base to balance on. I'm just gonna stretch across. You'll probably remember all these stretches from PE at school. And then over to the other side. When you're doing these after activity, the biggest thing that I would recommend is holding the stretch. So it's recommended that you kind of hold them for about 20 to 30 seconds, which you can do. Obviously, if you're inverted like this, you might not be able to hold that for very long because the blood might get to your head. So I'd recommend just doing a few touches and then coming up, a few touches and back up. And then with your side stretches, you can also do these when you're warming up. But when you're warming up, I would recommend kind of doing this slight bouncing action, because it will really start to engage those core muscles and get them fired up before you actually start your activity. All right, next stretch, we need to stretch out these core muscles because we have used them quite a lot. So again, grab hold of a wall or a chair or something, whatever you think will help you, and just hold onto that ankle and pop those knees together. You will feel it down in your thigh and your quad muscles. If you can't feel anything, the biggest thing I can recommend is pushing your hips forwards. So I'll show you what I mean. You're here and you want to push those hips forwards, and you'll start to feel it in those quad muscles. Okay, and you really want to get that heel up to your bum, especially if you're not feeling it. Okay, so I almost always have to push my hips forwards to feel this stretch. just going to hold it for a little while and then move on to the other side. You'll find that as you hold a stretch, it will get a little bit easier. So you can try and stretch that tiny bit further, and that's mainly because your muscles like adapted and it's relaxed into it. And so suddenly it's letting out a little bit more tension, giving you a bit more length. So you're able to do this kind of thing. Right, another strange run that you probably won't even think about doing is just rolling out those shoulders. Every time I do a run, my shoulders really tense up. And I find that when I push them backwards, I can really feel them in their socket actually being like, oh, this is where I should be. So other shoulder stretches that you can do are over your head, just gently pushing down on that elbow. So don't force it. It's so tempting just to like push it as far as I can go, but I can probably go a little bit further than the general population, as I teach dance, so I'm always stretching these out for my little acrobats as they do their bridges and bits like that. And of course you can do that the other way without any force, and you can try and grab hold of those fingers at the back. But they're the same stretch whichever way you do it, so it doesn't completely matter. Right, another leg stretch. We're going to go on to lunges. So you're going to need the floor for this. The first lunge I'd recommend is just doing a basic lunge like this. You're looking to try and keep your hips square. Okay, and I know if you're not dancing or do anything like that, you probably won't even notice what your hips are doing. But you want to keep them in line with everything. So I don't want you to turn like this and show me everything. I want you to twist those hips and keep them straight on. Okay. The other thing you want to do, especially as a runner, is keep this knee over this heel. I don't want to see this knee all the way out there. That's how you get knee problems. You want to just keep it in line. If you're feeling like you need a bit more stretch, move that foot out before you do anything else. And then of course you'll get a better stretch down in that area. So that's the first lunge stretch. If you're feeling like this is okay and you want to do a bit more, if you want to do a bit less, I would definitely recommend just kind of putting your hands down on the floor, as that will relieve some of the pressure in that area. But a bit more advanced, I want you to pop up that back leg into a straight line. So straight line, and you'll definitely feel that. Okay, again, this is one that I do a lot with my dancers, so I'll probably be a little bit more flexible because I can slide this into the splits if I wanted. But we're not going to. And then again, we'll do them both on the opposite side. So we'll start with the bent leg. I always recommend starting with a slightly easier stretch, because then you know where you are for that day. Every day is slightly different. So there's no point going straight in with a hard one if that's just going to rip a muscle. We don't want more injuries in our lives. And then straight leg. Alright, 2 more stretches for you then. We've now just stretched out kind of like our groin area, and now we're going to stretch out those hamstrings again, but instead of just touching our toes, we're going to do them one at a time. So we're going to pop up onto our knees, stretch out one leg at the front, so it's almost like this lunge position, and you're back on yourself, and I want you to reach for that toe, and you should feel it down in this area here. What I don't want you to do is pop yourself down like this, because that you won't feel it as much. Whilst it's still a stretch, it's not as good of a stretch as if you're up here and you're pushing yourself down. The good thing about this here is that if you are super flexible and you can get your head to your knee, you can try and push it a little bit beyond, so you're still getting that hamstring stretch regardless of how flexible your hamstrings are. then other leg. Again, with this one, you want to keep your hips square. So you don't want to be pushing it out. You want to keep those hips level and just press your head down and bend those elbows. Alright, last stretch for today. Obviously there's loads of more stretches than the ones that I've just shown you, but these are kind of like the top ones that I would do. And then yeah, if you like it, let me know, because there's definitely some more stretches where that came from. So the last one is you're going to lie down on the floor, so make sure you've got lots of room. This one almost stretches like your whole body. So you're going to lie down with your feet together and your hands are wide out to the side. Bring one knee up to your chest and you're going to hold it with the opposite arm, okay? And you're simply just going to bring that over all the way and try and get it to touch the floor. Okay, so you should be able to feel it in your kind of like gluteus maximus over here, but you'll also feel it in your shoulder because you're trying to keep both your shoulders on the floor and you're going to look towards the arm that's straight. Who's in this position right now? Are you feeling it? So of course you want to try and get this knee on the floor, but don't pull it. Okay, you'll feel the stretch. You'll kind of, if you've got a back that regularly clicks, this is a good one. Normally gets the back clicking. Alright, then the other side again, as with all the stretches. So you're going to bring the knee up, you're going to hold it with the opposite arm, I'm going to pull it all the way to the other side whilst trying to keep your shoulders on the floor. Okay, so it might be that that knee doesn't come to the floor, and that's okay. You may find that it doesn't help you that much, but I find that quite a lot of the time after I've done some exercise, this will almost always have something to stretch, whether it's just for the first 5 seconds of the stretch. Alright, so that's a few of the stretches that I would recommend for you to do after you're running, just to try and keep your muscles nice and relaxed and less tense. Yeah, remember to subscribe to follow my journey. I am currently trying to train for a marathon, so every week I'm uploading a training diary, just letting you know what I've been up to for that week. And then every Wednesday I'm trying to upload some kind of helpful tip to do with your running that I've learned over the last few years of running myself. So yeah, I'm going to keep stretching, do a little bit more,